Upon retrieving the skull, Sarath has a vision of Kabeleth telling him that Zana is his minion, and Sarath is the Dark Messiah, prophesied to free the great Demon Lord and unleash hell on the world. Then Arantir pops in to take it off you. You'd think an all-powerful necromancer would be able to get there before I train you with a sword and a fireball spell. Maybe he just didn't want to fight spiders, but whatever. This is where Arantir reveals he's the good guy and he's been planning to seal away your evil daddy to save the world and kill the Dark Messiah. And to kill you he does. You soon find yourself impaled on a spike. The big statue comes to life just to laugh at you, and you awaken amongst a pile of bones with no items or anything.
The prophecy of the Dark Messiah ends here.
This could be fun. Limiting the player to what can be found around them, having to use their wits to survive until they can reclaim their gear. What could be more exciting? Well, turning into a demon, that's what. Zana informs you that you now have the ability to become a demon and rip your foes apart with your razor-sharp claws and tail like some hulking red xenomorph. Such power comes at the cost of your life energy, which slowly drains as you inhabit this form. It's not long though, maybe 5 minutes before you retrieve your gear, and then the demon form becomes useless because your enchanted gear and spells, and your immense kick, can dispatch enemies quicker than your demon claws and without hurting yourself in the process. Like I said before, every time something interesting in this game happens, it is almost immediately undone. Now it's time to get back to Stonehelm to go through Arantir's portal into the world of necromancers and stop him once and for all, even though that would mean unleashing hell on the world. This level has you running through dimly lit caverns again, and then BAM! Giant worm out of nowhere. Watch as I die because I wasn't expecting the floor to crumble. Watch again as I fall to my death because of the wonky jumping mechanics and the fact that Sarath doesn't inherit the momentum of the moving pillar beneath him. After a rocky start, this set piece gets rather tense. You can't fight the beast, so fleeing is your only option. Initially you're safe in the cramped corridors, but you must move out into the open to progress, the giant worm threatening to eat you in one big gulp if you're not quick enough. Initially this is fun. The only way to go is straight across, hop over some boxes and a quick run to the rope bridge for safety. It doesn't seem like there's anywhere else to go, but then you look up because looking forward and looking down didn't help, and lo and behold, a wooden beam. You know what that means. You create a rope and you've got to time your climbing just right so the worm doesn't gobble you up. Finally, this tedious set piece can be done with. Climb up and jump through the gap down the chasm, and why is everything so floaty? First attempt, hit a rock on the way down. Second attempt, stuck in a rock but not dead. Third and fourth attempts, Sarath refuses to look down, so aiming the landing is just a crapshoot. Several attempts later, and Sarath succeeds at falling directly downwards, and it's into another dank sewer with spiders. Into the next room, and there's a puddle of water, a wooden board, a lever, and a grate on the wall. Since you need to go up, the solution is obvious. Pull lever, open grate, water comes in, board goes up, you win. This could have been a decent set piece if there was any danger. Enemies come at you, but they die in 2 hits. Sure, they can knock you off the board, but Sarath can swim, so water isn't really an obstacle. I actually did fall off and kept taking damage. At first I thought it was a glitch, but on my second go, I got to the top and I had to leap across the water to progress. I fell in and started taking damage again. Then I realized this water is special water. For this scene and this scene only, water is poisonous. It wasn't poisonous when Sarath was swimming through it at the bottom, but it becomes poisonous once it starts rising. Trying to stay on the board as the water rose might have had a sense of tension if the rules in the game were consistent. Water has always been safe before, so there's no reason to think falling off would do you any damage. The enemies aren't hard to deal with either. Since they're so easy and you're not even aware of the surrounding danger, this section loses all tension it might have had if the game had consistent rules or even just warned you about the water. Regardless, you progress and make it through and find the portal to the Necromancer's world that Arantir left open conveniently. At this point in the game, you've acquired a massive collection of vastly powerful weaponry to deal with any encounter. I feel like the skill points should have been given less generously, or the enemies made more difficult and varied. So far you fought men in armor, zombies, orcs in armor, ghouls, and spiders. Apart from the Cyclops, that's basically the entire roster of enemies. From here on out it's just more men in armor, wizards, and ghouls, and they don't get any more powerful. I found it laughable that I was able to kill most of the enemies here in one hit. The only time I died was when they ganged up on me, but it's also worth noting that I accidentally threw my armor away a little while before. This problem persists right up until the last boss. All sense of challenge is gone. Even if you hadn't leveled up much, the Spike Rack collection craze extended into the world of the Necromancers, and they're everywhere, so just kick and kick away and you're safe. Lyanna isn't safe though. Lacking the power to kick people to death, she ends up thrown in a spider pit. Guess what you get to fight in there. And on your way to find Arantir's journal, you have the option to save her or not. I'd come this far with her, so I figured I might as well save her. While I praise the game for giving you an organic choice to make, I feel like it would have been better if there was a time limit, whether it appears obviously in the game or not. You can of course just leave Lyanna there and the Spider Queen won't get hungry for human flesh until you enter her pit. Gave me plenty of time to find Arantir's journal, and to be honest it was hilarious. There's a bit of a disconnect between the game's tone and the content sometimes. Just before entering Arantir's room, Xana chimes in saying, "We have to find his journal. Where do you think he'd keep his personal effects?" Probably in his room, I guessed, since that's where the objective menu says to go. And sure, there it is, 2 feet high, 3 feet wide, and a pedestal right in the middle of the room facing the door. Who doesn't keep their secret plans laid bare on display for everyone to see? Who would even have a journal that big? For whatever reason, he does, and you read it, and it reveals that Arantir is going to use the skull to seal away the demon, but using it would kill everybody, kinda like what he said earlier. There really is no point to finding this diary as it presents zero new information to the player or the character. After wasting time finding that diary, it's on to waste some time saving Lyanna. To the pit! Right on cue, the Spider Queen descends from on high with a hunger for humans. Never mind the fact the pit has a roof, when previously Lyanna was kicked down into it from above before. I didn't quite feel like a fight, so I ran past her and got Lyanna out. You get the usual, if she dies or hates you, it's over message, so I figure I'll kill the big beastie. I use my demon form just to add some variety. The first time you use it, the game tells you that if the good guys see you being a demon, they'll hate you, but fuck it, I'm in a rush. Luckily, she didn't bother moving out of the corner where she'd been tied up, so she was none the wiser to my demonic ancestry. Time to escape. I don't know if it was a glitch or not, but Lyanna just didn't follow me out. Thought maybe she had seen the demon form and we weren't friends anymore, but whatever. The game kept crashing and it was getting stale, so I wanted to get it over with and left her behind. Luckily, she caught up to me during the loading screen to the next level. One thing I will mention though, is that while I'm not a fan of escort quests, this one could have been quite good. Usually they just involve you keeping some idiot safe who doesn't know how to throw a punch, but Lyanna can fight, and actually, despite leaving her to fight orcs and such in previous chapters, I never once saw her health bar deplete. She was either invincible, or just a good enough fighter that she didn't need me, so why bother having it at all? I suppose it gives you the opportunity to kill her if you want to. Anyhow, you leave the city of Necromancers back to Stonehelm on the chase for Arantir. Not being one for subtlety or stealth, he has sent his minions to siege the city, though I don't think it was necessary. He could have just worn a disguise and walked through, but then we'd have one less level. You carry on through the sewers and reaching the street, find the knight who was on the boat with you at the temple earlier. He's got a brother called Percy who knows every inch of the secret tunnels and sewers and he'll get you through safely. After fighting ghouls and more ghouls you find Percy, but oh no, there's a Cyclops. Percy says he won't go any further unless you deal with it. Actually, you can just run past it and he'll follow you, so I guess he's braver than he thought. Good on you, Percy. He opens some doors for you and you jump across a broken bridge. Percy can't make the jump, so until he finds a way around, you're on your own. Check the objectives menu for clues and bathe yourself in the blessed waters of the sanctuary of Ilath if you wish to purge Xana from your body. Alright then. It's things like this that make me think the game was rushed to completion. This is never mentioned in the game before, and it's not brought up again after. I didn't know until I looked it up after that you only get this option if you save Lyanna in the previous chapter. My first guess is that she was supposed to tell you about it, but then she has no idea about the demons, so I guess Sarath just remembers, oh shit, yeah, there's a temple where I can get rid of annoying demons just around the corner. I'm not a fan of objective lists like this anyway. They create a disconnect between the player and the game world. I suppose you could rationalize it by saying it's the main character's thoughts, but in my opinion that only works in something like a journal, like in Morrowind. In that game you have a diary the character fills in as you complete quests, so it feels natural. That's what you would do with all that new information so you don't forget it. I found the temple by accident anyway, but the priest won't let you in because he can't risk opening the door with all these ghouls around. Get rid of them first and then come back, he tells you. There weren't any ghouls there when I approached, so I turned around and one climbs up the cliff wall. I laughed at the thought that it would only be this one ghoul and then didn't laugh so much when I was right. Kicked it right off the cliff and the priest felt safe enough to let me in. He says Lyanna told him about you. What did she tell him? She doesn't know about Xana, so how does he? Maybe he can read minds. And I suppose Xana can read Sarath's mind too, because when you go in, she shouts at you and attacks you with fire to try to dissuade you from entering the bath. This very action represents another potential missed opportunity in the gameplay. Xana can cast spells too. Wouldn't it have been cool if she had a set of spells to level up, or maybe she'd only let you use them if you did evil demonic things? Kill the innocent, she lets you in on some secret demonic knowledge or something. At the very least, she could have tried saving your life when you're low on health, then cleansing her would have actual consequences. Sure, you can't use the demonic form anymore, but it was useless to begin with. But anyway, she's gone, and the god Eleth, or the priest maybe, bestows upon you a set of holy weapons. Staff of the Dragonbone, daggers of the Dragon Fang, and the bow of the Dragonborn. This is good. The priest is happy you banished a demon, so you get a holy reward, and they're good too. They all do double damage to the undead, which is most of what you're going to be fighting. The other thing I like about this is that earlier in the game you can find the Sword of the Dragon Claw. You're told it's cursed and that you can't equip it. Since the game doesn't tell you can banish Xana, it's unclear until this point how you're supposed to uncurse it. Seeing the dragon weapons as a gift from the gods is the clue that says, hey, that other dragon weapon hurts the undead might be part of this set. I think it's great when a game makes you think for yourself. I know it's not much, but it makes you feel clever when you realize you can use it, and you feel gratified for deciding to keep the sword the whole time instead of throwing it away. Now back to finding Arantir so you can save or destroy the world. Percy opens a sewer grate for you that lets you into another part of the city. Once you get to the other side, it's time for a boss fight. Not a new one, no, it's another Paukai. But this could be interesting. There's no portcullis to trap it under, so I figure this is the real test of your skill. Just you and it, one-on-one, using everything you've learned up to this point. So I start the fight firing arrows at it, and I can't tell if I'm even hurting it. I have a shield that reflects all damage and inflicts lightning damage to whoever hits it. When he attacks, he gets the electrified effect around him, but it doesn't seem to be doing much. Maybe magic is the key. The fire arrow spell is too puny, so I figure the lightning bolt spells should work. It travels so slow it's hard to hit him, and even when it does hit, it doesn't do much either. Not long after, I found a doorway and some stairs up a tower. Maybe I need to stab him in the face, and this is the way to get up to his height. Upon reaching the top, you spy a ballista, and then it's obvious. This isn't a boss fight, it's barely a puzzle. You just fire the ballista a few times and it falls out of the sky. This fight isn't challenging in the slightest. You fire and he fires, you step behind a wall before his lightning hits, and you pop out to hit him again. I guess the designers thought for a bit they were making a cover-based shooter instead of an action RPG. But now that it's dead, you turn a gear to open a door and Liana's on the other side. Seems like she could have opened it for you, or she could have showed you the way through the city. She got there way before you, so she obviously knows the way. The level actually would have been a lot more interesting with her at your side. Could have had some of those puzzles where you both need to turn gears at once to open a door, or maybe she'd have to blast open a wall it's too high to climb over. Certainly the scene at the church would have been more interesting with Liana there. Anything to make it feel like you're supposed to be working together. Bitch doesn't even open the next door for you, so you open the next door and enter the necropolis. If you hadn't saved Liana from the spider pit, she appears here as a lich. Xana says that's what the spider pit is for, turning people into liches. I feel like the spider pit's an unnecessary step in the path to lichdom, but then I'm no necromancer, so what do I know? It's nice that an action you took actually caused something to happen, but it's inconsequential. You let Liana die before so she can come back only to have you immediately kill her again. This isn't like an emotional story moment or anything. You ignored her before and let her die, so you're not going to care about killing her to her face. I think a better solution would have been to have her appear alongside the fight against Arantir at the end. As a lich, she says she's on his side now. She could have made him stronger, or at least made the boss more challenging. Having her come at you alone is just an inconvenience. You've killed liches before now, and she's no powerful than they were. It's just more wasted potential. Next, it's on to the necropolis. Upon entering, you hear a ghostly wail, and a disembodied voice tells you his dad is one of the 4 liches you'll have to kill to get to Arantir. But if you let him descend into the afterlife, he'll tell his dad to let you pass. Maybe the guy's just not used to talking to people, maybe the devs rushed this part too, but he doesn't actually tell you where he is, or how you're supposed to help him. You don't see his body hanging from chains until after you make your way through the necropolis for a bit, and once you do find him, he doesn't offer any clues about how to break those chains. Up until now, chains have been for climbing and only ropes can be broken, so it is consistent that your weapons can't break them. It was only through luck I found that you can interact with the chains if you approach them from the top. I wouldn't have known, only the white box appeared around it to show it was interactive. I press the action button, the chain falls, and Sareth says, "That's one," as if he knew what he was doing, the cocky prick. If you find the other one, he keeps his promise and puts in a good word for you so his dad won't hurt you later. Also, after he falls into the pit, this big trail of golden shimmering balls appears and creates a trail through the dungeon so you don't get lost going straight ahead. It leads you to this room with sarcophagus atop a stairwell. The room's full of the undead and a big old cyclops. This one goes down even faster than the other ones because he's undead and I've got all those undead killing weapons. Going to take a moment here to do some rantling about mantling. All you have to do at this bit is jump across a gap, and Sareth should grab the other side. Here's a clip of me trying to do a simple jump. I ended up just using the no-clip cheat to fly up. In the game's defense, there is at least one other way up with the rope arrow, but this jump shouldn't be impossible. It's inconsistent with the rules of the game and very frustrating because it punishes the player for something that isn't their fault. Going on, you move on past some knights and wizards and make your way to Arantir. If Lyanna is still alive, you find out she got there first and was patiently awaiting your arrival. She's clearly far more powerful than you, considering she got all that way without a scratch, or without the enemies even noticing. Hell, she even managed to get in without having to use the rope bow. Arantir has some undead minions guarding him, but they're no problem, obviously. With them dispatched, it's time for the big showdown. What's the big bad got in store for you? Don't be disappointed when I say it's not much. He tries his best, but God help him, the poor man couldn't throw a punch to save his life. After slapping him around for a bit, he says, "Oh, no fair, you got help, I won't help." Finally, the big bad boss fight. He's desperate to get rid of you. It's got to be the most powerful thing he's got. Nah, fuck, it's a Maokai. Only this one's undead. However, are we going to deal with this? Apparently, along with its flesh and muscle, it lost its brain too because it can't fight for shit. Rather than fly up high and breathe lightning, it just hovers over you and tries to hit you with its tail. You kill it, Arantir becomes vulnerable for a moment, you hit him, it comes back. Rinse and repeat until they're both dead. Arantir gives you a little guilt trip about how you've killed the only person who could save the world, and then he dies. Your dad's been watching, and even though he was pissed you killed Zana earlier, he forgives you and he's proud of you because you killed his nemesis. Now the skull is yours and you're presented with two choices. Put it back and save the world like Arantir was going to do anyway, or take it to your dad and let the demons out. And that's it. If you seal your dad away, everyone dies anyway because that's how the Skull of Shadows works for some reason. If you let him out, everyone's going to die because a horde of demons will attack. This whole thing just baffles me. Sure, Arantir would have killed a lot of people, but it seems like if the only other option is to let out one of the most powerful demons of all time, maybe Arantir was the good guy. The story could have been great. So many stories just have a bad guy and a good guy and it's obvious which is which. Here they present you a world in which there is no 100% good choice. Either way, lots of people are dying. Why would Sareth want to let Cab Eleth out anyway? He didn't know until a few hours ago that he's his son. Nobody even fucking brings that up. Shouldn't Sareth maybe have had some reservations about finding out he was born to be pure evil? I'm all for moral ambiguity in stories. It makes them more realistic because often in life there isn't just a true good way to do things. But this is one situation where I'd say having significantly less moral ambiguity would have been a good thing. Sareth finds out he's born to bring about the second coming of a demonic army. If Arantir had been set up as just a good guy, the story could have been about Sareth battling his literal demons and trying to come to terms with his fate and trying to change it. The crux of the problem is that unless you want to release Cab Eleth, Sareth's entire adventure is pointless. If you kill Arantir but put the skull on the altar, then Arantir's plan comes to fruition, so why bother going through all that? Everyone dies and the demons stay in hell. The only logical reason for Sareth to keep going after finding out Arantir wants to save the world is to do the evil thing, but why? Unless you just really believe in family loyalty, neither the player nor Sareth has any motivation to let the demons free. There's just so much more that could have been done with this story. Why not a third option to find another method to seal the demons away? Or just make that the whole plot. Have it start out the same. You're told to stop Arantir, but this time he tells you he's trying to do the right thing. This presents the opportunity for some interesting choices. Kill Arantir and progress on your own. Let him join you, but you'd have to kill Zana because Arantir hates demons. Maybe convince Arantir you're keeping Zana around as a means to an end, but if you don't get rid of her, Arantir loses faith in you and he tries to kill you. And really that sums up how I feel about this whole game. There's just so much wasted potential. The combat could have been great, but it lacks variety. Your first fight's barely any different than your last. They could have had you learn combos so you progress as a fighter rather than just putting your stats up. The story is nonsensical and the choices within almost inconsequential. There are 4 endings for the game, but they're just variations of the same cutscene, just with either Zana or Lyanna by your side. The level design is linear and slightly open, but not open enough to make it feel like you're truly exploring. You always know which way is forward, and the rewards for exploration aren't tremendously useful. If they weren't going to commit to open-ended levels, they might as well have just kept them 100% linear, and they could have focused more on the level design. Everything in this game could have been so much better, but it all just falls flat after the first chapter. I'd also like to mention the Xbox 360 version of Dark Messiah. It came out 2 years after the PC version, and it has some major differences. It's got a significantly longer intro section before the story properly starts, but after that the levels are exactly the same. The big change is in the RPG mechanics. It's a lot simpler. Rather than being given points to put wherever you like, whenever you like, you're asked to pick from 4 classes at the beginning of the game: Warrior, Archer, Mage, or Thief. After you pick a class, you're stuck with it for the rest of the game and you level up in a linear fashion. Apart from the initial choice of class, the player has no agency in how that character grows. While I think it's always best to give the player options, this does at least give you a more focused gameplay. And that's the end of that. I hope you enjoyed this longish look at Dark Messiah, and thanks for sticking around this long if you did. As always, all feedback's appreciated. You know the drill here. Comment, like, subscribe, check out the Instagram and the Twitter.